Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Back with John Riggio, our tennis pro, our architect, our friend, joining us today live here on the podcast right before the holidays. And we're going to talk more about his amazing career, which I still can't believe some of the stories that he tells me each and every week. And I've known him for years now, and he always has stories. So welcome back. How are you doing today?
Great, thanks. Hi, Jill. How are you?
Good. Did you get all your holiday shopping in time?
Oh, yeah. Still doing a lot of shopping for Christmas.
Oh, tell us a little bit about your world. My goodness. I mean, you probably have every tennis ornament, tennis type gift, right, for the holidays. I'm sure everyone's gotten you them over the years.
Yeah, now that I've been remembering more tennis, I've been buying more things, tennis, books, tennis, memorabilia from long ago. None of it's my original memorabilia, but yes, I've been buying all kinds of things like that. So I have a few things, and it keeps the memories going. It's pretty good. So today, I was remembering even more things. I mean, there's some reason for tennis. There's so many memories with tennis, and today I was going to mix in some of my architect profession too, just to put some things together. I think one interesting thing was in 1987, just the start of it, I ended the tennis I had explained on the last video, but there was a little piece of tennis after that. It was more than like a year later. I already gave my rackets away to charity. And I didn't have my rackets. I wasn't playing any tennis. I was just working on my architect profession. And I did receive a phone call that after all that time, someone was still interested in sponsoring me at the Sutton East. So they asked me to come down there and play, and I explained I don't have my tennis rackets anymore, and I thought the whole thing was over and everything. So I went there, and they gave me this racket that was just like off-the-shelf racket. It wasn't like a pro racket or anything, and I played some tennis. And I didn't play too bad. I could still play tennis. I wasn't overweight or anything. I think in the meantime, I was working out with weights a little too much. So I was starting to get a little muscle mass there, and but they were asking me how long it would take for me to really play tennis.
Yeah.
And I was just giving them a number. Maybe I need 6 months. They're just like a safe number. Maybe it would only take 2 weeks. I don't know, but they really had to put together the whole thing, and they just thought it was going to take too long. Now I'm 32 years old, and so I think what they did was they were hoping I maybe would sharpen up my tennis on my own and maybe buy some rackets or something like that. But I went back and nothing really happened. And that was sort of like the last time I was there playing. So it was sort of a situation. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe they were testing me to see if I was like a robot that turns on and off as a tennis player. You know, I thought
That's
like after a
great.
year I would just go there, I'd turn on and play like it was yesterday, but I really couldn't. I even gave away my rackets. I was really not sure what was happening. And I think years later I started to build back my rackets again, getting some pro stock rackets in recent years and things like that. But back then I was wondering what the problem is. They could have just given me another pro stock to start playing right away. I don't know what was going on, but I thought something strange was happening. Like maybe they want to see if I could just turn on as a tennis player and then turn off. I was obviously that really wasn't the truth. What was happening? It was really me playing, and I was really staying in excellent shape and was able to play tennis, really concentrating on my tennis game. That was what was happening back then. So that little piece of tennis again was like end of 1999.
Okay.
So, but I didn't start to play again. I was explaining to them also, I need to really keep playing and have to come back here like every other day or start playing more and more tennis again. But I don't know. They just thought I would just turn on or something, and that's really what had happened at the end of that. And then also I was just remembering the years there. I think the years between the Mitsubishi contract, which was really big because that put me up with the number one tennis contract in the world. But there was a lot of sort of like anxiousness to get that contract going. And by doing that, I kept thinking more and more about it. And so that like little stopping point was pretty big for me. And what happened during that time too was I was calling around, I was calling to my sponsors in Japan, and I was asking them if they know anyone that can sponsor tennis. And they gave me one name there, which was a pretty big businessman in Japan, and I gave them a call and I talked to him directly. So he was nice enough to pick up the phone for him when I called him. I went through his secretary and I talked to him directly. He was like owner of a big multi-million dollar corporation there. And I told him the situation with the tennis. And then when I got the tennis going, he had asked me to call him back. And I called him back when I got things going again with Leona Helmsley. And I told him, I'm back on playing so he could start his investing with Japan, because I had explained to him also, just because there was like a faulty coach and they didn't have too much support, I sort of didn't like the idea of everything just getting stopped there. It wasn't helping me at all. It wasn't making me play tennis. And any like 6 month default already went to a lawsuit and they paid the penalty and everything. So, but in the meantime, there was nothing there for me to continue playing. So what happened is by doing this, I was sort of happy. I was trying to make it where they can make good money on this deal, like, because in that next chapter with Leona Helmsley, my contract then eventually ended up as getting on another $50 million to $150 million in total, and that usually means that when I'm playing, there's a lot of money going on. They could generate a lot of money as far as sports business is concerned. And so that is why I called him over there. He was sort of happy. I talked to him a few times over those years. In recent years, I haven't called him back. I don't even know forget his name and phone number. But yeah, I was hoping that he would go ahead with that whole thing to help them out in Japan, and wouldn't let the whole thing just fall apart on them, because whoever in Mitsubishi wanted to buy my contract obviously wanted to really do it and make a lot of money, and they didn't want things to fall apart because the coach was no good, and then they didn't know how to put some things together here in the USA. So by calling them, I tried to help them out a little, and so they could sort of benefit from my contract. And I think they did benefit, of course, just by the sale of the additional investment in the contract. So they received like another 20 million, another 20 million, another 10 million. They did receive some money from that. I know from talking to my lawyer, they received some money from some of the winnings that were getting made too, that was going through. So they did make money back on that contract. And so I think usually the contract price is usually maybe only equal to maybe 10% of what they'd really make over the course of like a year's time or something like that. So the ability to make a lot of money was there for them. And I really tried to help them where they can profit off of the contract, that it wasn't just like a waste of time. And I think in the end, I was successful with that, talking to this businessman in Japan, and the whole thing going ahead with the contract seemed to have worked pretty good. I think there was a lot of money generated in the end of that contract. That the original $100 million, obviously they must have made at least times 10 of that amount of money overall by the end of that contract was finished. So I think there was plenty of earnings made, and I think that was really good for me. And
sure was.
I think one thing also, like with the tennis, which is really interesting, is in tennis you're in a world of like entertainment. It's not really the same as doing the professional work with the architect office. So what happened is when I was doing the tennis again with Leona Helmsley, she was really fully aware of things like that. She really wanted to help me, and she was introducing me to some females that I could potentially marry. So she, over the time I was playing there, she did introduce me to one female after another, see if maybe she could match me together with someone, which was really nice. So I did meet a number of different potential girlfriends and wives, and that was pretty good. So she was, because I think the whole thing with playing at the pro level was really giving me more of a higher place. I can maybe then need a girlfriend or wife that would understand playing the pro things or like to watch the pro things and things like that. And
Yep.
that's really what was happening there. So that was really nice of her, and that was going pretty
Aw.
good. So I was doing that, and
Oh,
so I think one interesting thing there's a whole bunch of stories I remembered. I didn't I don't think we talked about all of them, but there was a lot of stories. I think one interesting thing just at that time of going from playing the tennis to doing things with the architect office is I still got the idea that I was still meeting people that were in entertainment. They were sort of like more people you would meet in when I'm playing the pro tennis and things like that. And then I had a new girlfriend that was really like right at the end of my tennis playing, and that was my girlfriend Cindy, and she was involved with these very interesting movies. The movies were made by Andy Sedaris
oh wow.
in New Orleans, and I think they're movies that I think they might have been shown on regular television. They're sort of like these action adventure movies.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of that watching that kind of movie is very interesting. It was a little like what's going on with pro tennis too. There's a lot of excitement going on. I mean, that was one interesting thing about it. And oh yeah, and then Cindy was also model for the L'Oreal. She was on television with they had those commercials with long, beautiful hair.
Yeah.
She was one of the models that was on there. And so that was pretty good. And in fact, she was one of someone I had met previous with the tennis years too. And so that was someone that I knew for a while.
Hmm.
But that was very interesting. And I think there were some like very interesting things happening. I think
These girls, though, clearly, like Cindy, was very secure, right? It's
yes,
not an easy thing, right, for a woman to be like, oh, my man's getting all this attention. He's a celebrity. Yeah. But that's awesome. And I know you mentioned Delilah in
yes.
the past was another one as well.
Yes. Delighted was, of course, knew all about entertainment world, and she really liked the whole thing with that. So she was there, and my sponsors knew about her, and so of course, they were a little sad about what happened that she had passed on, and was hoping I
Yeah.
can maybe meet someone new with that type
Oh,
of pro tennis and things like that, and get a new girlfriend that would fit into that slot. That was very nice. So it was working pretty good, and I think one interesting thing about the pro tennis was also years ago, my grandfather used to invest in sports. He had a license to invest in sports. And I think one interesting thing, he doing the sports for him was really another like thing that I'm talking about. That he had a trade job. He had a very hard job. He used to have this manufacturing of custom leather shoes back then, back in 1913,
wow.
which is a pretty hard trade. And but I think the hard trade didn't have the other thing where he would have the sports. So when he got into sports, he was able to really excel at something. And so what happened with there is he was doing so good that he even had a like a name. He used to like to call himself Rizzo
Ah,
for his last name, which is very interesting. And he did very nicely investing in some sport players. And I think his investing in sport players, and he brought my father along with them, really helped out. I think because when I was very young and I was playing tennis and I was breaking the tennis rackets at home, so my father knew the whole thing about tennis, and that's why he was first thing he was telling me is that I could make pro tennis, and he told me to always play honest,
oh,
not to ever cheat playing tennis. And that came from some knowledge from his father that they used to go to watch tennis. They used to invest in boxers too. They used to help out boxers.
mm-hmm.
And so usually boxing and tennis somehow are very similar as far as that's concerned, as far as people sponsoring them. And I think So they were doing very good. I think all the discussion about sponsors, like I'm talking about, like if you don't have a sponsor, you can't play. So they were really helping some people out by helping them with their game. They can play the pro sports.
Yeah.
And he was able to, my grandfather was able to make some pretty good
Yep.
extra money on that. He had a nice car and a nice house at that point.
Aw.
And, I think that was really something very interesting. So I think that little piece of history was pretty good. I didn't think about it too much over the years, but I know that knowledge of also not cheating and playing good is really what people want to see, and they want to see if you have the ability to play a sport, particularly tennis, that you're not cheating and that you can or someone that they can really sponsor, and that is the best way to play. I think I described people, they catch them cheating, it becomes a big thing. They could get canceled contracts, they're not playing anymore. It's really no good for anyone to do that. So that was one thing, and I think that is really interesting. So I think so there were some interesting things going on. I think I was talking about one thing was my last sponsor was having some problems in the end that he didn't want to keep the sport business. And one pressure that he was getting, he was receiving threats. Whenever I won a tournament, they were calling him, and he was receiving threats on the phone. And so I think this happened where he ended up having to get some security guards. And so that whole thing was putting a lot of pressure on him too. It was affecting him. I think something like that might have to take like maybe more experience, more advice on how to really battle those kind of problems. And that's what I was saying about having
Yeah.
sponsors that could really handle all those different things was very important. So that was one thing complicating his work as a sponsor for me, and that was one interesting thing. I think there were some things I just didn't talk about them over the years yet, but there was one interesting thing that happened that was really pretty bad.
Mm.
And I think since they controlled the news there with the sports, where I would say I would receive some like they would have a news reporter come ask me some questions, like interview. But this type of event, it wasn't on the news, but it was pretty bad. I had won a tournament, and I exited the tournament. I'm in the lobby there, and there's like maybe 100 people there. They're all congratulating me. They're all saying, I did great, and they were watching me. It was probably on television too. And I remember someone came up and acting like they were my fan. It was a male, maybe the same age as me, maybe a little older than me, had walked up to me,
Wow.
and he was acting like he was going to congratulate me. And in fact, what happened is he had a knife on him.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yes, yes. So what happened
Uh,
is I really just had to punch him right in the nose and knock him out in
oh
front of
my
everyone.
gosh.
Yeah, yeah, and he fell down in front of everyone there. I
Again,
think
these
there
stories,
was,
I mean, amazing.
yeah, it was really amazing. I think so. It's pretty good that it wasn't really in the news. That it would have been a big thing because like something like that was in the news, then it would affect my tennis game, and they could make a big thing about it. But I think that is one thing because I think I had described all things happening to my sponsors, but there were different events like that happening to me too, and it didn't stop me from playing. I wasn't afraid of anything happening to me. That was a pretty big event because it happened right in front of everybody who was there. And so this person didn't he
Wow.
I forget what happened, but after he exited there somehow. I don't know if they had security there or what happened. And I think after that, I think they were watching the who was walking into the area a little more closely after that. They wanted to see who was coming near me a little more. I didn't have any bodyguards or security around me in particular, but I think they were watching a little more to the entrance after that. So this one, someone did get in and really tried to make an attack on me, after winning the tournament, trying to ruin things for me. But it didn't happen, so they weren't successful in doing anything to me, so that was pretty good. And so that was a pretty big event. And so they were trying to attack me and do things directly to me. It was very interesting what was happening there. And so then another thing that was interesting is as I was getting into architect work, I didn't really think about my career too much, about tennis players. But on some projects, the GC that I was doing the job with, he used to play some tennis, pro tennis back in the 70s. And on some jobs, I had the plumber was used to play Major League Baseball. Another job, the electrician used to play Major League Baseball. And I had some clients. One client was also a pro athlete too.
Wow.
And I think for him also it was the same type of idea. He really wasn't shouting that he was a pro tennis player. He just by conversation he told me. And the reason why this came up is because he took this vacation over to the Caribbean, and unfortunately him and his wife, they ended up getting poisoned, and they got sick over it and everything like that, which was pretty bad. And I think that type of thing, which is this thing with going on vacation and something happens, was pretty bad. I didn't put the pieces together, but there was another coach. It was the head coach of the tennis at the National Tennis Center. So back in 1985, the head coach there, which really, he liked my tennis playing. He thought I was an excellent tennis player. And that's why he approved the whole thing with me having my own court there. And unfortunately, he went on some vacation with some other coaches, and they weren't even all in tennis. They were in different sports. So this was like a pretty big thing. This was like the head coaches of sports. Unfortunately, when they came back from vacation, it turns out they think he must have been poisoned or something. He ended up getting cancer, and I think that's when people saw in the news. I think his name was Harry. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember the exact name. I was just looking it up. Unfortunately, he did pass on by 1986. So before 1986, he did die very quickly, which was pretty sad. And he was replaced by another head coach. The next head coach after that, he also liked me. He helped me out. And I think I described some stories about when the head coach went on vacation, everyone went wild, they weren't in control. But the next head coach did pretty good work. He was also really liked my playing. And he always used to term my playing was that he wanted me to really build up to a certain point that I would come out playing the tournaments like a bull, that I was going to start to win them. And he was sort of correct, even though I had already played junior tournaments, but as an adult, he wanted me to come out and really win them, not have a problem struggling with them. So that was really good. I think some players at that point in the adult league, they were wondering why I was teaching them, and they didn't see me playing in one of the tournaments recently. And it's because it just only took like maybe 2-3 months for me to get to a certain point where they had me play so many tournaments that no one would believe. I don't know if anyone even played that many tournaments, winning like approximately 115 as an adult player and 40 as a junior. So that was really amazing. So I think those were interesting things that were taking place. So I think with the pro tennis, with an architect, well, yeah, I knew a lot of different pro players. I think some of the pro players, a lot of them were coming from New York Mets.
Yeah.
Some from the Yankees, and some are from other sports. Some did play professional football and things like that. And so a lot of different players, they also gave a try at playing some pro tennis too. There was this thing about a pro tennis player, or maybe someone who plays baseball or football, might give a try at playing pro tennis too. So I did play a lot of different people who play the other sports. I played them in a pro match playing tennis too, and they played the other sports.
Wow.
So I was able to meet some different people like that in the other sports too, and it was pretty good. And I don't think any of them could beat me. I don't remember losing any matches, and but they all came to play me, and it was pretty good.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that I think today it just sort of like rounded out a little, just expanded a little about my playing and what was happening. And there's so many more stories. Somehow there's so many stories compacted into a short amount of time. And so those I was just remembering them, and I think those were pretty good.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for that. We love hearing your stories, and it's always exciting to have you here and still amaze me. Punched him right in the face.
Yeah, yeah, it's better
Uh,
than getting stabbed, so that is pretty good.
oh my goodness. Well, this is awesome work you do, and I love hearing about this. If we want to follow you on Facebook, how do we find you?
Sure. Just go to John Riggio, pro tennis player, and I have a page there. It has all kinds of photos, information, a link to a page that lists all kinds of tennis experiences I have and things like that. And I have a contact information if you want to send me a message. So I'm right there on Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day, and Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Happy
so
New Year.
much. Happy New Year, sweetheart. We'll talk soon. Thank you
Okay,
so
bye.
much, John. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is John Riggio. I'm the CEO of John Riggio, RA Architect, LLC. I provide architect services in the New York City metropolitan area. That includes New York City, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. My areas are specifically Long Island, the 5 boroughs of New York City, Westchester, Yonkers. In New Jersey, it is North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey. In Philadelphia, the areas are the Philadelphia metropolitan area. You can find out more information about my company at www.johnriggio.com. That's spelled JOHNRIGGIO.com. And there you will find out a description of my work. It shows a portfolio, pictures of the different job types. And I also have my contact information there. It shows my business address. From there, you can contact me and we can discuss your project. First, we will make an initial consultation. And then from there, we will then go over designing your project and then constructing your project. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.